Again, you can focus on the fear and the negative, or you can focus on what's coming as far as opportunity. And there's going to be opportunity everywhere, in retail, in office, in multifamily, for sure. And so what's the thing you should do? Get into cash as much as you possibly can, or have access to cash.
This episode brought to you by Suites at Madison. Meeting and conference rooms for rent by the hour, week, month, or year. Suites at Madison, where business gets done. Check them out at www.downtowntampaoffice.com. Now, on to the show.
You are listening to the Invest Florida Real Estate Show, covering topics in lending, buy and sell strategies, property management, hot markets, and tips and tools to guide you along the way on your path to real estate success. You want Florida investment real estate talk? You have come to the right place. And now, our hosts, Eric Odum and Steven Silverman.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Invest Florida Real Estate Show. This is your co-host, Eric Odum, along with Steven Silverman. Have a great guest today, Rod Khleif. Rod has been with us before, but I thought it would be a great time to check in with him again today to see how he's dealing with the current COVID situation that we're all facing. Rod has always been a great source of information for us and a resource for us, and we're greatly appreciative of that. And we felt like it was the appropriate time to check in with a multifamily investor and see how they're dealing and coping. We have covered a number of other commercial related episodes in the last few weeks, and hoping that this will be a good point of contact and information for our multifamily investors. So looking forward to that. Also, before we get into it with Rod, wanted to read a comment that we had from one of our listeners, F. Joe. I live in New York and I listen to this podcast because it's so insightful. These guys do a great job covering the Southeast market, especially in Florida. F. Joe, we really appreciate you taking the time to do that. It's meaningful to us. As you know, we ask every episode, if you have not done so, that you give us a review. It does help us with guests. We do work very hard on trying to get programming for our show, and guests do look to see who is leaving comments and what type of comments they're leaving, and it does help them to make a decision about whether they're going to invest time with us and thusly with you. So it's greatly appreciated when you do fill out those reviews and leave them both on the iTunes Store and the Google Play Store. And if you haven't done so already, we'd appreciate you doing so. I think that's all I have for you guys. I know it's tough. Everybody investor, what is best investor or business owner, are dealing with some hard situations that we've never faced before. And having a support group and getting emails from you guys and feedback from you guys and hearing what you're going through, it definitely gives us some support to want to continue to do the show and do a good job for you, because we feel like we're providing content that is meaningful and helping you navigate not only this situation, because we're going to come out on the other side of this. Everything's going to be okay. But I mean, I know there's folks with a lot of anxiety, and we try to provide information. And as you guys send us emails that tell us that we're doing a good job, it definitely helps us want to do more for you. So we definitely appreciate the emails and the feedback, the comments on Facebook, and also the reviews. All those things are good. I think that's it, guys. So without further ado, let's go ahead and join Rod and Steven. We actually did a Zoom video on this. It's about the only way we can really get Steven and I together right now. So please let us know what your feedback is on this. We'll be posting the video on our YouTube channel.
We have with us today Rod Khleif. Rod is a multiple business owner and a philanthropist who is passionate about real estate, business, and giving back. As one of the country's top business, real estate, and peak performance luminaries, Rod has owned over 2,000 homes and apartment buildings and has built over 24 businesses in his 40-year business career, several of which have been worth tens of millions of dollars. Rod also founded the Tiny Hands Foundation, which has benefited more than 75,000 community children in need. Rod, welcome to the Invest Florida Show.
Thanks for having me back, guys. Really appreciate you being here. It's wonderful to see you guys again, and let's have some fun today.
Yeah, absolutely. appreciate you taking the time to come on again. And you've been very generous with our listeners in terms of your time, and we really appreciate that. And of course, a little bit different circumstances this time than last time. So, we're several months into this whole COVID situation. Talk to us about how you're faring and what the outlook is, Rod.
Sure. Well, it is the pink elephant in the room. And I will tell you, there's a little deja vu-ish because, I lost $50 million in 2008 and 9, and this is deja vu. And I think
if you say that quickly, it doesn't sound too bad.
Right. Thank you. Let's move past that. Let's move past that as quick as we can. So, I'm seeing the writing on the wall. There's going to be incredible pain. It's very, very sad. Many small businesses cannot pull through this. And there's going to be, tremendous unemployment. Just today in the news, it was another 3.5 million people filed for unemployment. I think they're up to 37 million people, which is just staggering. And there's going to be pain, but with crisis comes opportunity. And I heard Jay Abraham, a brilliant marketer, say ethical opportunism, and I think that's the operative word. Not to get sucked into the fear, but to recognize that. There are incredible opportunities coming. And so what are we doing? Well, we bought 1,000 units with our students last year. We're on track to double that this year. We actually have 2 assets under contract right now. We've gotten $1.5 million price reduction on one of them and $500,000 on the other. And not because they weren't performing well, but just because of the enhanced risk. But we've always, because of, what I call my seminars, I don't call them failures. I call that $50 million loss in 2008 a seminar. And because of that seminar, I'm even more conservative than maybe the average person. And so, our underwriting has certainly tightened up a little bit, but not that much. For example, we've got an asset right now under contract in Cincinnati. I think it's about 280 doors. And even before COVID has slowed it down. We're still waiting on the debt. We're almost completely fully raised on that one. But COVID has slowed down that process because of the debt. We're just waiting for final approval on that, and it's coming. But even before COVID, our underwriting was such that we could break even at 35% vacant, economically vacant. So that's very, very conservative. In addition to that, we raised $1 million in operating reserves just in case. This isn't just CapEx. This is operating reserves that goes in the bank that's just there, in case of something like this. So, or something like this that impacts collections. So again, we were already very conservative. We raised $1 million on another asset in Louisiana last year. We raised $500,000 on an asset in Texas last year as additional operating reserves, just in case kind of money. And so, again, we're very, very conservative, and we stress test our deals as follows. And these are high level, but I'll give you a couple examples. And this is pre-COVID. Now, if a property won't break even day one at 25% vacant, we won't do it. And now it's up to 35%. That's really our barometer. And our model is such that we refinance to get our investors all or most of their money back either once or twice in a 3 to 5 year period. And at the end of 5 years, after we've refinanced, if we can't break even at 35% vacant, we won't do the deal. So those are some high level stress tests that we do. But obviously these are tough times, and there's a lot of fear out there. And so one of the things I'm asked about a lot, because my platform really is about mindset and psychology and the impact of that on any business. And my belief that 80 to 90% of your success in anything is your mindset and your psychology. Right now, more than ever, if you're watching or listening to this, it is so important for you to direct your focus. It's so important for you to manage your focus, because that's what got me out of the dumps, in 2008, 12 years ago, when I lost $50 million, was remembering what I wanted and why I wanted it, and focusing on that instead of the pain and the fear. And so if you're watching this or listening to this, to these guys right now, you're a leader, and there are people that are watching you. There are subordinates, there are employees, there are team members, there are partners, there are, contemporaries and your family. They're all watching you, and you're a leader. So right now, more than ever, you need to be focused on what you want and setting an example. And I will tell you, in times like this, average people are sucked into Netflix where extraordinary successful people are focusing on learning and growing and becoming more. And you may have to innovate or pivot. I'll tell you personally, I was just telling you guys before we started recording that I was on track to have somewhere between 700 and 800 people in Orlando this last weekend. And of course, we know what happened with that as far as live events. And so I pivoted, and literally in a matter of 2 or 3 days, we created a website, and you can check it out. It's multifamilyvirtualbootcamp.com. And we went virtual. We went live stream. I'm in my backyard recording the video for it. And we had 900 people pay to watch it. And it just knocked it out of the park. And it was different, and it was challenging, and it was scary. But we innovated. And so if you're watching this and you're suffering, or listening to this and you're suffering right now, you're going through some hardship, think about how you can innovate. Think about how you can pivot. Think about how you can change. Like I'll tell you this as well. I know you guys do a meetup, and there are lots of meetups that are pretty much fallen off the planet. And so I'm looking at possibly doing a national meetup. And so I went out, we bought domain names. We've looked at platforms for this, and I've got, national, virtual national meetup.com or multifamily online meetup.com. I bought a whole bunch of domain names, that, to pivot to possibly do that. I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet, but we're close. And so, I've had to pivot inside of my organization. I've had to let a couple people go, and, my leadership team had to go to 75% of pay for a while, but now we're back. We're fine. We've pulled through it. We got our PPP loan, and, but I just feel sorry for the small businesses that didn't have the resources that I have, that couldn't last. That, we just got our loan literally yesterday, and we are it's May 14th today. And this thing's been around now for quite a while. And there are a lot of businesses that didn't have that kind of staying power, and you're seeing them being shuttered all over the world, frankly. And so, it's a little crazy right now. A lot of fear, and fear paralyzes. So again, that's why it's directing your focus is so absolutely important right now.
Tell us how you're able to manage your tenants right now, and maybe start with a little bit of a 30,000 foot view.
Sure. Well, this conversation is a little behind the 8 ball right now, only because I was saying this 8 weeks ago, 10 weeks ago, and that was ahead of the first rent that was due, which was April 1st into this crisis. And that is be proactive. Get out there ahead of this. Go meet with your tenants. See how they're doing, literally one by one. Have they been impacted? Have they lost their job? What's going on in their lives? And proactively reach out to every single resident and find out where they're at. If you've got tenants that have paid well up to this point, for God's sakes, be understanding and work with them and help them, because there's no greater expense than turnover. And so, this is when that has to happen. So, be firm, let them know the rent is due, but also be understanding and work with, especially the tenants that, were good people that just fell on this hard time. And so, help them. We every one of our assets, we created resource sheets with local rent assistance programs and every type of program that would assist them to also direct them to. We, if they said they lost their job, then we trust but verify. Okay, show us the unemployment application so that we know, that just to, dot our I's and cross our T's. But keeping in mind that you do have to pay the rent. But again, coming at it from a proactive place, and that's critical, number one. And then not just residents, talking to your lenders as well, letting them know, hey, we're looking good right now, but just want to let you know that we're on top of this. And if something happens, do you have, what resources do you have? What things are you offering? And again, this is a little behind the 8 ball, because these conversations should have already happened, and they certainly did on our properties. But, right now with everything going on, you might have a tough time even getting through to your lenders. But with the residents, it's really over communicating. With your investors right now, it's over communicating. It's letting them know, you're on top of things, letting them know what you're doing, almost, to a fault, just continually communicating, letting them know, so their comfort, they have comfort. Because again, there's a lot of fear, and it's probably going to get worse before it gets better, for sure. We're going to see the impact of this. I would say probably, even rent collections this month weren't bad. next, this is May. Again, in June, we'll see what happens. But I think the real impact is going to be July, August, September, somewhere in there. We're really going to see some pain for landlords. And then the ramifications of all that are a good 6 to 8 months, a year out when we start seeing, assets go into special asset categories at the conforming lenders, banks, possibly their REO departments getting involved, and, receiverships and things of that nature. But again, it's not something you should fear. It's something you should get excited about, because there's going to be opportunity. So, long answer.
Rod, it's so interesting to hear you talk like that, because we're real estate brokers. We're out in the market and we're doing different types of commercial real estate. But one of the things we see is such incredible stupidity from the landlords. Just to give an example, I have one really good client who owns multiple gyms and has many locations, and he went to two of his landlords and he told them, look, I'll pay you, I just need a break for 3 months and I'll tack it on, but you're going to get paid every cent, but in the meantime I don't have my PPP loans and all that. And they issued him a default letter instead of working with him. It's just
that's just stupid. That's just stupid, and especially in the retail environment like you're describing. I'm going to tell you, retail's going to get their butts kicked. I almost got into it a few years ago, and frankly, I'm glad I didn't. Not the Amazon dynamic notwithstanding. Now COVID has multiplied that the impact of that dynamic. Restaurants, gyms, anything where people gather are being impacted. And they're talking about social distancing. I went to a Chili's yesterday and every other table had to be empty. Many restaurants cannot survive that kind of an environment. And so it's really, Cheesecake Factory went out of business. I think that was the one that I heard went out of business, and a lot of them
Sweet Tomatoes.
Yeah.
There's a laundry list of shuttering locations that we've heard from already on the restaurant.
Oh yeah, and so retail is going to be heavily impacted. Now, will it recover? Sure, there'll be a different tenant demographic that goes in. You're seeing a lot more gyms go in, but in the past, when retail got hurt by the Amazon dynamic, you're seeing a lot of restaurants go in. Well, that's a problem now. So. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. There are some asset classes that are going to be hurt by this. I think office is going to be hurt significantly as well, because businesses are suffering.
We lock Stephen in his office so he doesn't come out and spread the corona breath around the office.
Good. Just throw meat in once in a while. Good, yeah.
They're just using that as an excuse. I just want to be upfront and let you know that.
Yeah. Why has this door been locked for a week?
We've been looking for that for some time now.
So Rod, let me ask you a question. Like, what is really going on in terms of demand and supply and what are the opportunities, if any, in multifamily?
Well, because I will tell you, sellers are still. The mindset hasn't shifted that much yet. Okay. We've gotten some concessions from the more sophisticated sellers that we've got a couple of assets under contract with. We had a beautiful asset in Cleveland. We got close on. I don't think we're going to get it now because but as soon as, we start seeing some collection issues, it's certainly been a seller's market for years and years. It's, brokers have been the belle of the ball, and now we're getting calls from brokers. It's that dynamic has shifted. Money had to go hard day one for you to get a deal. That's all going to shift. It's going to get back to some normalcy actually. But that said, there were a lot of skinny deals done the last few years. There just were deals that, we were in best and final on assets, and we're scratching our heads when we see what these properties traded for. It's like, what were you thinking? And, at the very least, a lot of investors are not going to get the returns they were promised, certainly on yield play deals, deals where they were completely banking on rent growth. But value add operators, are going to get caught with their pants down. They're going to get caught running out of reserves, particularly if collections ramp like I expect they will. You can't have 34 million people out of work and not expect it to impact pretty much everything. So, I'm not a doom and gloom guy. I'm more about, okay, what's the opportunity in this? How can we pivot? How can we capitalize? How can we, thrive instead of just survive? But to think that there's not, certainly my business, which was rock solid, has been hugely impacted. And, lots of other industries, like you said, gyms, like spas, barbershops, hair salons, all these places where we're heavily impacted. So who knows? I wish I had a crystal ball. I'd be a billionaire already, but to think that there's not going to be some serious pain and serious opportunity is naive.
We're in a situation now where the brakes have been tapped a little bit on doing evictions and
sure,
and on the foreclosure side too. But interestingly enough, I've had 2 clients this week that have received lis pendens on their commercial properties. So that was after their tenants have ceased to pay, and they reached out. They were proactive about reaching out to their banks. They really can't, even though there wasn't a commercial tenant law passed in Florida. The reality of it, you can't evict people right now. The judges are just
not that, and you're going to make the cover of the paper if you're too aggressive about it, for sure. But
the banks are still doing lis pendens, and I thought that had been shut down. So what's a guy?
Commercial is a different world than residential. Now, of course, Fannie and Freddie are offering forbearance, but I will tell you that's not the panacea either, because that does not look good when you ask for it.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see because Freddie and Fannie, this is all of your agency debt, which is the gold standard in multifamily deals. Right. They have a scorecard when they determine whether they're going to loan to you. And if you've asked for multiple forbearance, it's going to be interesting to see if they classify that as a COVID forbearance, or is that just any forbearance, and you're going to be basically on the back shelf.
And you're not guaranteed to get it either. Okay, if you were struggling before, you may very well not even be approved for forbearance, and it's only a 3-month thing. It's not like it's not like the be all and end all. So. Right. We're going to see stuff go to their special assets division. There's just no question, and get into receivership, and all that's coming. So, and I like bridge debt. Our CMBS has pretty much fallen off a cliff. I forgot who it was. CoStar, the owner of LoopNet, did a study, an article or a study this about 3 weeks ago, and they anticipate at that time 13,000 CMBS loans going into default. 13,000. Okay, that's a lot of commercial debt, and so and that's the CMBS market. A lot of bridge debt lenders have already gone out of business. They're done. And they're heavily into CMBS. The thing with those things, with those loans, they're sliced and diced so many times you don't even know who owns them. So you're not even going to, if you're in some of that debt, you may not even know who you owe until the lis pendens comes down the wire. And so,
the predatory CMBS guys are getting the band back together again. So we've already seen a couple of the transactions that have taken place on other properties where these are guys that are really foreclosure and bankruptcy specialists, and they don't play. Those guys buy your loan, they don't play. And this is the conversation we had with the guest last episode. The benefits of dealing with smaller banks where you're still shaking hands and pressing flesh with people, they're a lot more apt to know you and want to try to give you a little bit of leverage. But man, if you've got a CBS debt and it's been purchased by one of these guys that are
it's on Wall Street, somebody goes in there, snaps it up, and forget it.
You better get on your knees and pray that things are going to work out, because they're going to be relentless, no doubt.
Yeah. So actually, Eric just touched on a really important part that I saw during this COVID crisis, and that was how important the relationship is with your banker. Like some of the bigger banks, you just couldn't ever sit and talk to, but the smaller banks, you could go in, have a conversation and explain it, and they'd help. And I guess that goes along with what you were saying about just keeping the relationship with the tenants, because just keep having that conversation so each one knows where you are on the court.
Yeah, because the banks aren't stupid. They know what's happening and what's coming as well. I mean, these are very sophisticated operators, and they're going to respect that proactive communication, and that they need to be communicated with as well. And so, everyone, your investors, the lenders, your residents, everybody needs over communicated right now, so that until we get through this mess.
So, Rod, talk to us a little bit about the future. Talk to us a little bit about how investors can be thinking about positioning themselves for the next year to 18 months. Because let's be honest, I think everybody, if you've not already come to the acceptance that this is not going away, you need to wake up. This is not going to be
If you think this is going to be a blip and it's going away in a couple months, you are naive. It is not going away. I interviewed a doctor on my show, and I didn't even air the interview. It was so negative. He was a disaster specialist, and he said, I didn't air the interview. I just didn't want to put that negative energy out there. But he said, this is the new normal. This whole social distancing thing, until there's a vaccine, it's the new normal. But again, you can focus on the fear and the negative, or you can focus on what's coming as far as opportunity. And there's going to be opportunity everywhere, in retail, in office, in multifamily, for sure. And so what's the thing you should do? Get into cash as much as you possibly can, or have access to cash. Talk to your investors. Tell them we're getting ready. Don't hide under the rock when the media builds this up, just like they built up COVID. Don't hide under the rock. When there's blood running in the streets, we are going to pounce, because the biggest money is made by contrarian investors. And I forgot, I need to look up the Warren Buffett quote, because I just got interviewed on another show and I forgot it. But there's something like when people are afraid, get excited. And when people are excited, don't invest or something. You get the. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but sure. The message is that opportunity is right around the corner. And again, I don't think that I don't have compassion, because I feel for the people that are suffering right now, and I was one of them until we pivoted. Again, you choose what you focus on, and I choose to focus on how can I create opportunity, create value for myself and my investors. And again, we've got 500 doors under contract. No, not 5. I'm exaggerating. 400 doors under contract right now, and they're screaming deals. And so we're one of them's fully raised or almost fully raised. But the other one. So if you've got a listener that's accredited, text, and you're interested in talking to us, text the word partner to 41411, and we'll chat with you about them. But again, we're really excited about what's coming. Now, there may not be incredible opportunities in the recourse debt type inventory. Okay. There may be some okay deals, but there are a lot of big hedge funds and venture capital funds that are getting ready for those A and B assets that have unlimited funds and very low cost of funds. So it's going to be hard to compete in the conforming market. But if you're talking under 100 doors, you're talking, properties that have bridge debt put on them, things of that nature that needed some rent, some CapEx, needed some renovation, and it just failed. Incredible opportunity. So
that was what I was going to say. So your acquisition strategy going forward, is it about, are you starting to already talk to the banks? Are you just making more telephone calls to the brokers, or what are you doing from an acquisition standpoint?
All the above. I mean, we're talking to brokers. We've got a mailing campaign going to brokers, right? We've even got a direct to seller campaign going in the markets we love. We've got lots of talk with investors. We're talking to private equity companies, because again, we're getting ready to continue to capitalize on what's coming. And again, we haven't stopped, because we were already very conservative. And our honestly, the world we play in now is typically 100 to 150 doors plus. Mm-hmm. So when I'm speaking about opportunity, I'm really talking about more of the smaller stuff for people just getting going, people that haven't, got a few assets. And we may play around in there as well, just because I know there's going to be opportunity. But right now, our investment criteria is ideally 150 doors plus. And that's more the conforming market. And a lot of that stuff's not going to go south. They're going to have hiccups, but it will survive this. I mean, I started my podcast 3 years ago to tell that story. I had 800 houses here along the Gulf Coast of Florida. I had several apartment complexes, and the houses are what pulled me down. The apartments did just fine. They would have survived if I hadn't cross-collateralized them with packages of houses. And so a lot of the apartments will do okay unless they made a mistake, unless they're undercapitalized, unless they're poorly managed or over-leveraged. But there were a lot of those. So, yeah. So from a time standpoint, are you worrying about, well, I think it's going to be 18 months to two years and we'll have a vaccine, or, and you're kind of banking on that? Or are you just looking then and say, I'm not worrying about what happens on the health side, and I'm not worried about it at all. I mean, a little bit, I've got a suppressed immune system, a little bit. I had a bad car accident back in 2011. So a little bit of fear. My wife has more fear about it than I do, but I'm really healthy. I mean, I work out every day. I eat well and all that stuff. But that said, there's a little discomfort with it. But for the most part, for me, it's if it happens, it happens. And I'm careful. I'm not flagrantly ignoring things, but I'm not over manic about being around people or anything like that. My wife makes me throw a mask on if I go out now and whatnot. But again, I don't think this thing's going away till there is a cure. I don't think there's a vaccine. I don't think it's going away. I think, but it took how long did it take us to have deal with AIDS and deal, cancer, still no cure. And there are things that we're just going to have to live with. And so I don't focus on that. I focus on the positive and I focus on the things that I want. And I focus on, moving forward. And I don't get caught up in the fear and the hype. And, I look at CNN and ABC for amusement, but, and just stay on top of what's happening. But there's, the news, if you're glued to the news, just remember this, that's not there to inform you. It's there to scare the hell out of you. That's how they sell advertising. So keep that in mind. And so, I look at it, like I say, for amusement and just to see the headlines, but it's not to be informative. It's there to scare.
And a little bit on the positive side, my medical friends, and I have friends that are doctors and physician's assistants, and I have a friend that's a virologist. And when I start talking about my interest in medicine and natural health, and they usually just kind of roll their eyes and humor me a little bit, but I love studying that stuff.
I literally have, I could pull them out and show you here, like 20 bottles of different types of vitamins and supplements here. I could fill the hands up and I actually used to have a foundation called a Better Choice Foundation. It was 501c3 to study, chronicle, and teach holistic methodologies to treat and cure cancer. Cancer was my target, and I've had to let that go. I've just been too busy. But no, we're kindred spirits in that regard. And yes, the formal medical community will roll their eyes at you, but I'm going to tell you, I totally believe in it. I believe in lifestyle being a huge component of life and success, of your energy, your attitude, and certainly your ability to forego disease and illness.
I certainly don't want to make people feel bad. There's people dying from this. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
But here's the sunlight. Here's the sun ray. You can control somewhat, to some degree, the negative outcome. And it really is about, because you look at it, diseases in the past, if you were a child, usually they're the first ones hit because their adaptive immune system is not strong. It's only their innate immune system that's strong. And these kids are overwhelmingly asymptomatic. 78% or whatever it is, the kids are asymptomatic. There's kids having problems. I don't want to marginalize that, because there is. But when you look at it, and this is what I first started studying, it's the innate immune system. And this is something you can have control over. This is where exercise, vitamin D,
vitamin D right there. Vitamin D. I got even antivirals like L-lysine. I've got
L-lysine,
liposomal vitamin C. I take it liquid and this. NAC. All of that.
NAC.
Yeah.
And so these are things. Sweat. People are so afraid of sweating. Sweat. This increases your lymphocytes. It increases your ability, your innate immune system. This is a combination of the vitamin D. If you start looking, the statistics of people that are in the hospital, it's like 80-something% of them are deficit vitamin D.
Yeah.
So go out. We're in Florida, man. Go out. Enjoy. Get
the sun. Get in the sun, for God's sake.
Do what Stephen does. Stephen goes out in his bikini and wanders around the backyard.
Oh, gosh. Please. Some things can't be pushed out of my brain.
I'm not saying that's for everyone.
Some things can't be unseen, even in our memory. Yeah.
Each to their own. And this is how Stephen look. This is how he gets vitamin D. I mean, this is an African guy, so it's trouble for him to get.
Yeah, I need my vitamins. So.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, you do have some control. So I guess that's the point.
Agreed.
Take control of your own health, and your outcome and chances will increase. It will for the better. So anyway.
And don't get caught up in the fear. Focus on what you want.
Exactly.
So, Rod, let's talk a little bit about timing, because this recession is so different to the last recession. There's so many factors that are different. The last recession was caused by overzealous lending and not backed correctly, and this time there's not an oversupply of many assets, and there's not a lot of inventory.
This is completely health driven. It was like a light switch. I mean, I remember. What was it? Valentine's Day. I'm in Miami at the Miami Yacht Show, and I spend $50,000 on a watch. I spend $100,000 on a boat, $30,000 on jet skis, and 2 weeks later the world falls apart. I'm like kicking myself because that money would make me $3 or $4 million in the future. I know it well, and it's just like a light switch went off, and so because I know in crisis cash is king, and so. It's as far as timing, this is unprecedented. There's no rule book for this. Who knows what the ultimate ramifications are going to be? But this I know as just a global, all-encompassing frame of mind is that you want to get in cash or have access to cash, because there are going to be incredible opportunities in businesses. To buy businesses, I'm just telling you, and so again, this is not me being a shark or it's just reality. Again, like I said, ethical opportunism, but I go there because I want to focus on focus. I want to bring attention to focus, not to fear, because fear paralyzes. So, there's plenty of fear mongering going on right now. And so I will always steer a conversation to the positive. So that's again.
So let's talk a little bit about a timeline, because I agree with you. Buddy,
if I knew that, I would be a billionaire. Okay, I would be a billionaire. Seriously.
Well, the real timeline we can only address, as I believe you were correct when you said when there's a medical solution and there's a vaccine, and we don't know when that's coming.
Right.
But along the road, people are going to start to feel the stress. And they're
already feeling it. Okay. It's stuck at home. I mean, I'm blessed, and I don't brag about it. I live, in a compound, and we've got every imaginable thing here. And I just can't imagine these families with kids in an apartment, my God, stuck in there for weeks at a time. I can't even imagine what they're going through. It's gotta be horrific.
But on the investment side, like many of the sellers and people that I've spoken to the light bulb hasn't gone off yet. They haven't really felt the pain for long enough. And we're only a couple of months into it.
The stimulus is going to run out. The stimulus is going to run out. It just is. I mean, the PPP loan is an 8-week thing. This thing's not going to be over in 8 weeks. It's not. And they can't. I mean, they've already thrown trillions of dollars at it. Listen, we won't even go to what the impact of that's going to be to inflation and everything else ultimately, but they can't just keep throwing money at it. And so at some point that's going to end, and then the stuff's going to hit the fan, because again, there's so many people out of work, and there's so many businesses that will not recover. And so, as far as the timeline, I think this is going to be a very different conversation in 3 or 4 months. To tell you that right now.
Frankly, Eric and I started to see it today on one asset where somebody had, and I feel like it's just the beginning.
Trust me, it is. Yeah.
Before the COVID hit, was already a place that he was wanting to sell, wanting to get out before COVID hit. And now he's just like, I don't care. I don't want to sit on this for another 18 months and 2 years. Get me out.
Yeah. Well, you may not be able to. I mean, I'm just going to tell you, smart money is going to be, bottom feeding, and they're going to be looking for screaming deals. I would, luckily we don't have anything we're trying to sell right now. And that's a blessing, because it's going to be very, very hard, not just to find buyers, but the capital stack's going to be challenging. The investors, the equity, the debt, all of it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Rod, that's been very informative. I really appreciate your time. Is there any other
my pleasure.
Wisdom before we let you go today?
No. Listen, if any of your listeners are interested in multifamily, I loved the live stream. I'm doing another one July 25th and 26th. So, if you're listening to this, text Rod Live to 41411. Tickets are under $100. It's me for 18 hours. I'm not selling anything. It's just value. And I mean, it was a lot of fun. The last one I did, and so I'm doing it again. So it's multifamilyvirtualbootcamp.com. Would love to see you there. And I promise you'll be glad you did if you do. I've got the largest Facebook group really for multifamily in the world now. It's almost 34,000 people in there. It's if you want to join people there, go to multifamilycommunity.com. And it's a direct link to the Facebook group, multifamilycommunity.com. But when you go in there, see what people said about the boot camp. I have hundreds of testimonials, unsolicited, about how much they enjoyed it. And so if your listeners are interested in multifamily, definitely want to do that. No, I appreciate you having me on, guys. Good to see you again. And
good to see you.
It'll be fun to look back on this a year from now and see what we said and see what really happened. So,
right.
Anyway.
Well, Rod, you were in our offices last year, and we had a great conversation. And you did a repeat. So thank you very much for being with us. It's always great to talk to you.
Likewise. Thanks, guys. All right. Be well, my friends. Thank you.
And that was Rod Khleif, real estate investor, multifamily investor in Sarasota, Florida, talking about how he's coping in this COVID crisis. And we hope you found it to be of value. We also would direct you to our website at www.investfloridashow.com for other episodes and great guests that might give you some ideas on how to invest in real estate in the state of Florida. As always, we appreciate the time that you invest with us each and every episode. And until next time, hasta la vista.
You've just listened to the Invest Florida podcast with Eric Odum and Steven Silverman. Join us every week for actionable real estate investment ideas, and of course, visit our website at www.investfloridashow.com for more shows and tips on how to earn a cash flow in the real estate market in Florida. While hosts and producers of the Invest Florida show have no reason to doubt the validity of comments of our guests, we do not warranty their accuracy. Please check with your legal, financial, and tax advisors before entering into any investment. Returns will vary from person to person and deal to deal based on unique circumstances. All information expressed in this show is for educational purposes only. Opinions of the guests are not necessarily shared by the hosts and producers of the Invest Florida show.